I'm always in trouble.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. A very warm welcome to all of you to this Pretoria Boys High School 2020 Valediction ceremony. This evening is by all accounts considered this school's most important function of the year. The culmination of 5 years your son has spent at this school and the value he has added and gained during this time. Valediction 2020, like the year, is unique. There's no one sitting in this hall this evening that in March would have predicted that each boy in attendance tonight would only have been allowed to be accompanied by one parent, and that we would be live streaming the event so that those who are not able to attend can be part of this very special occasion. For those of you that are at home, thank you for your understanding and support in this matter. The school shares your disappointment in you not being here with us this evening, and we acknowledge your absence. Before we commence with this evening's program, please allow me to introduce the stage party to you. On my right-hand side, or on your left-hand side, from the far left, moving towards me on your right, on the far left is Mr. Jason Weber, Chairperson of the Pretoria Boys High School Old Boys Association. To his left is Mr. Topham. Mr. Topham is a member of the school's governing body. Mr. Ehud Bellman, the Chairperson of the governing body, is unfortunately not able to be with us this evening. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Brandon Topham. On Mr. Topham's left-hand side is Advocate Billy Downer. Advocate Downer is an old boy of this school and our guest speaker this evening. I will introduce him more fully at a later occasion. And on Advocate Downer's left-hand side is Mr. John Eilsley, the second master of this school. All these gentlemen will play an important role in this evening's event. In anticipation of this evening's program, I'd also like to thank Dr. van der Walt and the school's music department for the musical items which form an important part of the evening. All musical items will be performed by the matric pupils of the class of 2020. The various items for this evening's program will follow unannounced, as per the program that you have received. After the musical item, which will follow now, immediately after I have spoken, we will enter into the devotional side of the program, commencing with the Sepedi Bible reading and concluding with the benediction. Please note that none of the devotional items require applause. Without any further ado, we begin with this evening's program.
Our Bible reading from today comes from Luke chapter 8, verses 22 to 25. The translation for this reading is found in the program. Ka letšatši le lengwe a namela lesela watle a na le barutwa ba gagwe a re seleleng mošola mme ba thoma go sela ya re ba sa ya yena a robala gomme lewatle la welwa ke sesesedi ba tlalelwa ke metši ba bona e le kotsi ba tla ba mo tsoša ba re morena ra latlhega yena a tsoga a kgalemela phefo le mafotho a metši mme go ruthela ruri a bolela le bona a re tumelo ya lena e kae bona ba tlabega ba tshogile ba bodišana ba re bjale yena e ke mang ga a laela diphefo le metši gomme di a mokwa. Thank you.
Ons word platgeslaan, maar nie vernietig nie. 2 Korintiërs 4 vers 9. Soos bome wat in die wind buig, so verkry veerkragtige mense krag uit teenspoed, omdat hulle weet hoe om die volgende 4 dinge te doen. Eerstens, om geanker te bly. Salomo het gesê, 2 is beter as 1. As 1 mens val, kan sy vriend hom ophelp. Tweedens, om jou innerlike monoloog te monitor. Let op hoe jy oor jou situasie praat. Wanneer jy agterkom dat jy negatief raak, probeer om dinge in die lig van die skrif te sien. Derdens, om die ligter oomblikke raak te sien. Salomo het gesê, 'n vrolike mens is soos goeie medisyne, en 'n neerslagtige mens tap jou krag. Laaste, is om altyd terug te gee. God bemoedig ons sodat ons ook in staat sal wees om by mense te staan deur hulle swaar kry. Ons grootste glorie is nie om nooit te val nie, maar om op te staan elke keer wat ons val. Die afgelope jaar was verseker vol uitdagings en moeilike tye, maar tog sit ons almal hier vanaand, sterker as ooit en reg vir wat die toekoms inhou.
I heard a lone trumpet call over the school grounds one afternoon. Around me, all activity had ceased into a hushed and sacred silence through scattered calls of "Last post." I looked around me as an inexperienced Form 1 to find boys of all backgrounds and cultures facing the school building with their hands on their hearts. That is the moment I realized that this was bigger than me. That Boys High isn't just a school, it's a brotherhood, a way of life, of which I became a part. Good evening, Mr. Hausenkamp, staff, honored guests, parents, and most importantly, the matric class of 2020. My fellow students, my brothers, congratulations, we have made it. We have reached the end of our journey here on these hallowed grounds. Together, we have survived many things, including older forms, puberty, hair inspections, and Friday detentions. When we entered the school, we were all big-eyed Form 1s, staring up in awe at the giant matrics such as William Gersteling. It took us a while to get used to the way of life here at Boys High, as we struggled to find our places in this institution. The last post sounded eerie and strange without meaning. It was simply a school tradition of remembering those who had come before us. Its melody was as unsure as the uncharted waters that lay before us. But Boys High, at its best, is filled with music. Be it the last post, the rhythm of the gumboot dancers, the bagpipes rehearsing in the forest, or the constant drone of the Star Wars theme being played by a trombone in the music department. Another thing that makes Boys High so special is its vast culture program. While many rival schools may top us on the sports fields, the Boys High music department is arguably the best in the country. And the phrase has been used many times. There is a place for every boy in Boys High. He just needs to find it. And I am very happy to say that I have found my place in these ranks of giants. No, I was not a first-team player in any major sport, but I threw myself into the cultural program here at the school. Some of my happiest memories of my time at the school was when I was alongside 100 or so of my brothers, singing my heart out on stage. This camaraderie is something that we all experience at one stage or another, especially next to the sports fields, where hundreds upon hundreds of boys would bind up in support of those representing them in the first team jerseys. There's just something that gives me goosebumps every time I hear our war cries echo across the school grounds, like a mighty lion roaring, bringing all else to silence. I would like to quote the words of the prefect whose name was the most difficult to learn, Tobekane Gonomangwane Kanile, affectionately known as TK, the valedictory speaker of 2016, and he also happened to be my boss. He said, "These two things, memories and relationships, mold us and shape us to become the beings that we are." Form 2 came around the bend, and we all got that standard chip on the shoulder that every Form 2 carries around. Luckily, there were enough Form 3s to put us back in our places. And by the time we reached Form 3, we had started to feel like this is our home. Most of us had found our places in the school and had started to throw ourselves into the activities here. The school building started to feel like home and the sports fields like our backyard. The last post started to mean something more than a mere tradition. It became a reflection of our personal experiences on a day-to-day basis, because our brotherhood had now developed into an unbreakable bond. The Form 4 year was filled with vibrance and passion. It was a year full of triumph on the academic, sports, and cultural fronts. And as we watched the matrics of last year leave the school environment to write their examinations, we were more than ready to take our places at the top of the food chain. We entered matric in a blissful state of comfort, content, and excitement. The last post was now a welcome and familiar tune that beat along with our final paces in this race. We were working our legs off in preparation for the rest of the year. But it was not meant to be. Nobody expected the events which took place from March onwards. We, the matric group of 2020, had to watch all our hopes and dreams for the year slip away in a complete state of helplessness. We lost our matric year. Many of us had been working towards goals which we set for ourselves years ago in Form 1. There was no inter-house athletics, no Maritzburg exchange, no 4 schools concerts, no winter sports season, no annual production, and no office fixture, where we obviously would have beaten them on their first team, on their home ground, on their 100th year anniversary even. For many months, the classrooms were empty, the corridors were echoless, and the sports fields were quiet and plain. For months, no last post resonated over the school grounds. But although we have lost much, there is still a great deal to be thankful for. Let us cast our thoughts to the Valediction ceremony of 1945. During the Second World War, 95 Boys High boys lost their lives. The matric group of 1945 stood broken, with unfillable voids in their ranks. For these brothers, there was no future. And of those who had survived the horrors of war, many had had their school education so interrupted that they did not even complete their school careers. Look around you. We are surrounded by our brothers, still standing tall and strong. We have a future, and I will be watching out for you, and I trust you will be watching out for me too. I look forward to seeing what we have all become when we meet again on the twisted paths of life, or at one of the 10, 20, 30 or 40-year-on reunions. Because no matter what has been taken away from us, the 2020 group will be remembered as the group that took one of the hardest punches in the history of the school and rose stronger than ever as conquerors. I asked myself this question while I was preparing the speech. What is Boys High? And after some contemplation, I came to the conclusion that it's not the school grounds, it's not the name, it's not the school buildings. Boys High is a culture, a way of life, a brotherhood. Boys High is a people. Boys High is everybody in this building. Boys High is all the forms below us. Boys High is all those who have walked these sacred grounds before us. And Boys High is all those to whom the last post is more than just tradition. After the First World War, H.G. Wells said, "This was a people's war." And the last post became the people's anthem. But before having the connotation of honoring the fallen, the last post was played to signal the end of the final sentry duty of the day in the military. Be quiet and listen for a second. The sports fields have gone quiet. The rest of the school has turned towards the school building with their hands over their hearts, thinking of those who have gone before them, thinking of us. Our last post is playing, signaling the end of our duty here at Boys High. The class of 2020's years of service at Pretoria Boys High School has come to an end. We have been fully equipped for battle. All that remains now is that we take everything we have learned here out into the world and make it a better place. It is time that the 2020 battalion leaves the training camp known as Pretoria Boys High School. For 'tis here we have learned to live. Boys High.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Matric Group of 2020, I would like to thank this fine institution that taught us so well over the past few years. It is my honor to announce the gift that the Matric Group of this year will give to the school. We hope, the school will be giving lights to the basketball courts, and we hope that the generations to follow will use it to the best of their abilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I have no doubt, well, I know for a fact, that those lights will be put to good use and that they will continue to add value to the extramural life of the school. Thank you for the thoughtful gift that you have given to the school. Who would have thought that after 12 years of formal schooling, you would finally reach this point, the end of your school careers? In 2009, most of you started as little grade ones, cute and innocent and in a world very different from the one that exists now 12 years later. How quickly our children grow up, how quickly this world changes, how unpredictable life and a year can be. My address to you this evening, or in my address to you this evening, I will try to draw together the present and the past, and in doing so, create hope for the future. As the American baseball player Yogi Berra famously said, it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. Berra was the master of malapropism. Don't worry, I didn't know what malapropism meant either, and I had to go look it up. I was quite impressed with Mr. Ilsley earlier, and he knew what it meant. I have no doubt, Advocate Downer, you know what it means. I certainly hope so. For those of you who don't know, it's going to make me feel better. Malapropism is a ludicrous misuse of words, and it appears Yogi Berra was quite good at this. Another famous gem of Berra includes, the future ain't what it used to be. And considering the year we have had, and in the time of COVID-19, this actually does make sense. Perhaps Berra was far wiser than many of his baseball contemporaries actually thought. As the class of 2020 leave the safe and secure environment of school, the future certainly is not what it was when you were sitting in this very same hall only 7 months ago. None of us could have predicted what 2020 had in store. It has in so many ways been a tough year for all of us, but for you, the class of 2020, I feel particularly so. To have your final year of school so cruelly taken away is a tough pill to swallow. 2020 was certainly not a year without its challenges. It was a year which in many ways tested you as a group. It tested your leaders, it tested your friendships, and for many of you, it tested your character. It is, however, through these tests that hopefully you have grown, both as a group and more importantly, as individuals. As you reflect on this year, be thankful for the challenges. Through them, you've hopefully grown and you've discovered where your strengths really lie. I've always said that you learn far more from losing than you do from winning. It remains far more important as to how you deal with the hardships in life than the hardships themselves. The late Steve Jobs, the man whose creative genius gave us the iPad and the iPhone, reflecting on the period when he was fired by Apple, the company he co-founded, said that being fired was the best thing that could ever have happened to him. Jobs said, the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. Less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. According to Jobs, the best thing that ever happened to him in his career was being fired. He would never have told you this at the time, but looking back, it became very clear to him. Prior to COVID-19, It has often been said that the 21st century requires a workforce that can adapt to a changing world and a working environment. How prophetic this has proved to be. The original 21st century skills are cited as the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. These 4 C skills were pushed to the fore this year and have proved to be more important than ever. Not only have they proved to be important, but the reality is, those of us who have adopted them best, embraced them, will reap the rewards going forward. Yogi Berra, in all his wisdom, also had this to say: if you come to a fork in the road, take it. I hope you did just this. Another famous gem from Berra includes, it's déjà vu all over again. Despite the unpredictability of the year, in many ways, how true this has proved to be for our school. In reading through the school's centenary book, Pretoria Boys High School, The Story of a South African School, 1901 to 2001, written by Mr. John Ilsley, I was drawn to the chapter War, Rebellion and Plague, 1914 to 1918. When looking to find any sort of similarity between Pretoria Boys High School 2020 and any year that has gone before. I share with you a few paragraphs from the book, which I hope you will find as interesting as I have. Anybody visiting the school in about October, in the 4th term of 1918, would have found the school deserted and no trains running on the line that formed its northern boundary. The desolation could be explained by the Spanish influenza pandemic, the worst epidemic in 6 centuries, and one which was spread largely by the movement of people and goods during the war. There was no panacea, and helpless doctors could do little but offer advice on dealing with the fever as it occurred. Such was the severity of the epidemic that the school was closed for 4.5 weeks. When it had opened, the flu had buried 3 pupils, Kenneth Duncan, David Ngela, and Daniel Steinbach, and 2 recent old boys, Jan Bam and Loftus Versveld. They were among the 139,471 people who died in the Union of South Africa that year, the highest number of any country on the continent. The book goes on to say, the epidemic disrupted the cricket season, with the game not being played at all in the 4th term, as well as the matriculation examinations of that year. Recurring cases were still affecting individuals the following year, but by that stage, the worst was over. Doesn't it all sound so familiar? I once again repeat the words of Yogi Berra, it's déjà vu all over again. The silver lining to be drawn from this is that 2020 is in many ways not a unique year to the school. Such events have happened before, and they will in all likelihood happen again. As has been the case before, despite the disappointment of the year, the school and its boys, they have survived. Perhaps we could even argue, in many ways, they are better off than they were before. An extract from the book I would not have shared with you this evening had it not been for the fact that it has specific relevance to the class of 2020 is the following, and I continue to read from the same chapter. On the morning of 11 November 1918, Mr. Hofmeyer called the few boys who were at the school together to announce that an armistice had been agreed upon and that the guns of war would fall silent at 11 a.m. Greenwich Meridian time. 2 days later, the headmaster was able to send telegrams to all pupils in outlying areas informing them that the school would resume the following Monday. The war and the worst of the flu epidemic were over, and it was time to retrieve something of what was left of the school year. I share this paragraph with you for the following reason. If you go this evening into the school museum, you'll find the school's original telegram book. In this book, you'll find the original handwritten telegram instruction from Mr. Hofmeyer to a certain Mr. Nicholson of box 30 Nellstrom, informing him that his son should return to school. The telegram is dated 18 November 1918. This evening, sitting in this hall, as part of the leaving group of the class of 2020, is in fact a prize winner tonight. Mr. Nicholson's great-grandson, a third-generation Boys High boy. I thought this an interesting, relevant, and special aside to share with you as we try to make sense of this crazy year. As we sit here this evening, trying to find the positives in the year that was never meant to be, and trying to make sense of a future very different to the one that we had imagined 7 years ago, I leave with you a final piece of advice from the mighty Yogi Berra. You've got to be very careful if you don't know where you're going, because you might not get there. Despite the year we have had, I trust and hope you will agree with me in saying that this school, together with your efforts, has done enough to help you get there. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a particularly warm welcome to our valedictorians of 2020, of which this evening is very much a celebration of your achievements over the past 5 years. By way of explanation of the awards that we'll be announcing this evening, we will first, in fact, be announcing the academic colours for Form 5 based on the year marks. We would normally announce these in a special assembly in the third term, but obviously this year we were not in a position to do that, and so we have decided to incorporate that in this evening's valediction ceremony. We will then go on to the subject prize winners and the announcement of the Dux Scholar for 2020, and then we'll move into the final set of awards, and those are the prizes that are specific and unique to our Boys High valediction ceremony. Please, all recipients who are invited up on stage to receive the Colours Awards and the other awards that we'll be making, we decided that we would observe the custom of handshakes from the guest speaker this evening, Advocate Billy Downer. Please obviously use the hand sanitizer on the steps on the far side as you come up on stage, and there's another set as you come down here. Just by way of observing the COVID-19 protocols, that is not a reflection on our guest speaker. All right, so we're going to start with the announcement of the academic colours based on the Form 5 year mark, which obviously we've only been able to calculate those once the recently written prelim exams were completed. As is our custom, I will read the names first of the boys who receive half colours, and we will congratulate them by way of applause once I've read all those names. And then we will go on to announce the full colours and the honours awards for academic achievement. In order to receive half colours, boys have to have achieved as their year mark an average of at least 80%. So we have re-awards to Aidan Allison, Benjamin Anthony, Shanae Bodie, Petrus Dreyer, Felix Erken, Conrad Jamison, Ignatius Jordan, Anju Kim, Luke Larkin, Jurian Muller, Mohammed Suleiman, Ryan Simons, Alex Theodoro, Emil van den Bogaard, Pierre van Hoeven, and Matthew Weppener. And new academic half colours go to Iwan Buerta, David Bender, Emil Hollenby, Berhan Jagot, Christophe Hubert, Johannes Leroux, Matthew Loupsher, Kyle van Lochrenberg, and Dylan Webster. Congratulations, gentlemen, on the award of half colours. We move on to the recipients of full academic colours. And in order to receive these, you have to have achieved an average of at least 85%. If I could ask the boys whose names are read to wait until I've finished reading all the names, and then we invite you up on stage, and Advocate Dana will congratulate you. So we have re-awards of full colours for academic achievement to Calvin Buerta, Calvin Cummins, Michael Dunlop, Kewen Holman, Andre Leroux, Emil John, Janko Jonker, Roy Kim, Cornell Watson, and then 3 new awards of full colours for academic achievement to Andre De Bruin, Elshama Kandoro, and Kostaki Potgieter. Congratulations, gentlemen, on achieving full colours for academic achievement. We now move on to the announcement of subject prizes for each of the subjects offered at Boys High. And this will conclude with the announcement of our Form 5 Duck Scholar for 2020. So we start with our first subject prize, and that is for English Home Language, and the recipient is Anju Kim. The subject prize winner for Sepedi, First Additional Language, is Kushulwayo Sibonyoni. Congratulations. For French Second Additional Language, the subject prize goes to Roy Kim. Subject prize winner for German Second Additional Language, David Bender. In the subject of life orientation, the subject prize winner is Shane Bodie. In the subject of mathematical literacy, the subject prize winner tonight is Timothy Bass Katapoulos. In life sciences, we make the award to Andre Leroux. The history subject prize winner is Elshama Kandoro. Subject prize winner for geography, Benjamin Anthony. In the subject engineering, graphics and design, the winner tonight, Calvin Cummins. In the subject of business studies, the recipient is Kyle Hutton. For visual arts, the recipient tonight is Matthew Weppener. Recipient of 2 subject prizes, these being for Afrikaans, first additional language, as well as for music, Christophe Joubert. And finally, recipient of 5 subject prizes, these being for physical sciences, mathematics, advanced program mathematics, information technology, and accounting, and hardly surprisingly, the Form 5 Duck Scholar for 2020, Joshua Fuljon. We now move on to those prizes which are unique and special to our valediction ceremony here at Boys High. In each case, I will read the citation first and then announce this year's winner, or in the cases of shared awards, the joint winners. We start with the Brian Besson Memorial Trophy, which is awarded for outstanding all-round creativity in the field of art. And this year, this goes to Benjamin Anthony. The Alexis Preller Award is awarded annually to the most promising painting student, and this year the award goes to Junior Khabashi. The Bakker and de Tooy Art Theory Award goes to the pupil who achieves the best consistent results for art theory during his time at Pretoria Boys High School. And the recipient is Benjamin Anthony. The Best Speakers Award. This award is made to the best public speaker in Form 5, an honor merited both in his form and in a public arena. And the recipient is Junior Khabashi. The Terence Ashton Memorial Prize is presented to a Form 5 boy who excelled in the study of literature and who demonstrates most clearly a delight in words. It is awarded annually in memory of Terence Ashton, a boys' high English teacher who served the school for 24 years. And this year, the Terence Ashton Memorial Prize goes to Andre de Bruin. The Justine Armstrong Award is made annually for the most significant contribution in the field of music. And this year the award goes to a young man who you heard perform earlier this evening with a piece played on piano, and that is Christophe Hubert. Congratulations. The Trebbett Barry Award, this award is made to the boy who has done the most to promote cross-cultural respect, understanding and dialogue, and has helped make Boys High a school where people of all cultures feel at home. The award this year goes to Stefan Krugel. The Gail Bloomink Award for Service is awarded to the pupil who, in the opinion of his peers, has made a significant contribution serving both the school and the wider community. This year, the award goes to Vuyo Tswagu. The Michael Learmace Award, this is awarded to a boy who, in his time at Pretoria Boys High, has dealt with adversity and overcome significant personal challenges, showing great courage and fortitude. This year, this is a shared award, and the first recipient of the Michael Learmace Award is Greg de Kock. And the joint winner, together with Greg de Kock, is Tristan October. The Cliff Saunders Cultural Award is awarded to the pupil who has shown a keen interest in a variety of cultural activities, who has pursued these interests with passion and diligence, and who has excelled in one or more of these fields. The award is shared, and the first recipient is Junior Kabashi. And the joint recipient of the Cliff Saunders Cultural Award is Kostaki Potgieter. The Jonathan D. Jansen Award is awarded to the pupil who has displayed the finest combination of commitment, creativity, and compassion during his time at Pretoria Boys High School. And this year, the recipient is Sean Meharry. The Margaret Tyler Award. This is awarded to the scholar showing the best all-round prowess in sport, who participated meaningfully in the sporting sense and who has also contributed to the life of the school. This year's Margaret Tyler Award goes to Nathan Mayer. The Gertrude Tyler Award. This is awarded to a pupil showing the most diligence, who is not necessarily brilliant or academically successful, but rather a good all-rounder who has contributed meaningfully to the life of the school. And this year's recipient of the Gertrude Tyler Award is Richard Nicholson. The Ulrich Rissig Prize is awarded to a boy deemed to have had an average academic achievement during his career at the school. He shall be judged to have given of his best both in his studies and his extramural activities. He shall be judged to have made the best contribution towards upholding the ideals, traditions, and history of the school. The prize is shared this year, and the first of the two recipients is Marlo Dupria. And the joint recipient of the Ulrich Rissig Prize is James Bader. The Elwyn Davies Award, awarded annually to a leaver from Pretoria Boys High School who, though not necessarily distinguished for his academic or athletic abilities or for his powers of leadership, there being other forms of recognition and awards for such boys, has set the finest example to his fellows of sincerity, integrity, loyalty, and reliability in his relationship with those about him at the school. And this year's Elwyn Davies Award goes to Otseli Mudwe. The Malcolm Armstrong Renaissance Man Award. This award serves to recognize and encourage those of this school whose use of their talents has earned them recognition in the three spheres of endeavor at Pretoria Boys High: academic, cultural, and sporting. The chosen candidate should possess a human compassion that promises that his talents will not be directed inwards towards self-satisfaction, but outwards to service. The Malcolm Armstrong Renaissance Man Award for 2020 goes to Felix Erken. Thank you very much, Advocate Dana, for presenting the prizes up to that point. And I invite the headmaster to step up for the award of the Headmasters Awards. The general citation for the Headmasters Awards runs as follows. The Headmasters Award is given to those boys who are eligible by virtue of having achieved excellence in at least 2 activities, be it academic, sporting, cultural, or in a position of leadership. Their service to the school and their fellow man is an example to all. Their dedication and devotion to the school values and ideals is unquestioned, and we honor them for their contribution. There are individual citations for each of the boys who receive Headmasters Awards. And so in the first case, the citation that I have describes this young man as being a humble young man with a lovely sense of humor, who is at all times most sincere and honest. He tackles life with a positive attitude and a determination to succeed. He has proved to be an extremely reliable and responsible school prefect this year. He has an outstanding work ethic and takes his schoolwork seriously. He has been awarded academic half colours. He is a keen sportsman and received a team award for rugby last year. He is a particularly talented musician and has been awarded full colours for music. Perhaps his most outstanding quality is that his many talents are not directed inwards towards self-satisfaction, but outwards to service. He is in many ways the epitome of a boy's high boy. And our first Headmasters Award this evening goes to Janko Jonker. In the case of our second recipient, the citation reads as follows. He has been an excellent school prefect and head of Sunnyside House. He has proved to be extremely reliable, responsible, and committed in these leadership positions. He has proved to be a natural and authentic leader. He has been an outstanding role model and an example to all, and has engaged meaningfully with all those with whom he has been involved. He has achieved excellence in sport, where he has been awarded honours in athletics. He is a humble and reserved young man who leads by example. He has been a true ambassador for the school. And the second of the Headmasters Awards goes to Gino Sipalo. The citation for the third young man receiving a Headmasters Award this evening runs as follows. His leadership abilities resulted in him being selected as the school deputy head prefect. This position he has filled with distinction. He has a sound work ethic which, combined with his excellent time management skills, has resulted in him being awarded academic full colours. Extramurally, he has fully involved himself in the life of the school. He is a passionate athlete and participates in both cross-country and athletics. He represented the school's first team in both these sports and has been awarded half colours for cross-country. Culturally, he was a member of the Ballroom Dancing Club for 2 years. He is a talented all-rounder with his academic, sporting, and cultural abilities, and yet he remains firmly grounded. He is the quintessential Boys High boy. Our third Headmasters Award this evening goes to Andre Leroux. Our fourth citation reads as follows. This young man has excelled as both a school and a house prefect. In particular, he mentored and guided the Form 1s this year who were placed in his care. He was tireless in his efforts in ensuring that they learnt and cherished the values which are so important to this school. He is a top sportsman. He represented the school in cricket and hockey, both at first team level. He has been awarded full colours for hockey. Where he stands out is that he not only believes in the values of the school, but he embodies them too. He is a remarkable young man in every respect and has proved to be an excellent role model to his peers and the rest of the school. So our fourth Headmasters Award this evening goes to Devon Allen. The citation for our next recipient reads as follows. He was selected as a school prefect this year, a position he has filled with distinction. He has always been prepared to stand up for what is right, even if this means placing himself in a difficult position. He has been awarded honours for athletics. He is an international medal winner because of winning, as a result of winning silver in the Africa Youth Athletics Championships. He has at all times been an excellent role model to his peers. He is a young man who leads by example. He is an outstanding ambassador for the school and an exceptionally loyal, proud, and committed Boys High boy. And our fifth recipient of a Headmasters Award this evening is Jerim Bonge. The next citation reads as follows. This young man was selected as a school prefect and a deputy head of his house. He has proved to be an outstanding leader and has at all times led by example. His maturity and work ethic ensured that he was an invaluable asset to both the school and house. He is a talented sportsman. He was one of the school's squash captains this year and has been awarded half colours in that sport. He is conscientious, diligent, and hardworking. He has also been awarded academic full colours. He is a humble and unassuming young man who has earned the respect of his peers and the staff. He epitomizes the saying that actions speak louder than words. He is in many ways the perfect example of what a Boys High boy should be. And so this award goes to Calvin Buerter. And that brings us to the last of the Headmasters Awards. This young man came to Boys High in Form 3. Despite his late start, he quickly stood out and earned the respect of his peers and teachers. He was selected as a school and a house prefect, and in both these areas has proved to be an outstanding leader. In all that he has done, he is led with humility, diligence, and dedication. He is a mature student and has been awarded full academic colors. He is a man of integrity and a true boys' high boy in every sense. He embodies all of the values we as a school seek to instill in our boys. And so it gives great pleasure to award the last of the Headmasters Awards to Kewan Holman. Before the headmaster takes his seat, I'd just like to make amends for an omission earlier in the evening, and quite a serious one. When we were I was announcing the Colours Awards for academic achievement, I never announced the recipient of the Honours Blazer, and in order to achieve that, you have to have achieved an average of 90%. And this young man achieved that. And so I'd like to invite him back on stage. Our only honours recipient, and that is the highest award that we can make at Pretoria Boys High for academic achievement, and that is Joshua Fulyun. Congratulations and my apologies. For the awarding of the last prize of the evening, I'd like to invite Mr. Jason Webber, who is the current chairman of the Pretoria Boys High Old Boys Association, to present the Old Boys Prize. Thank you, Mr. Webber.
Good evening, Mr. Hasenkamp, Mr. Ilsley, Advocate Downer, Mr. Topham, members of staff, parents, and the class of 2020. To the matrics, tonight we mark a significant milestone in your schooling career as we celebrate the completion of your time at Boys High and recognize the many varied contributions that each one of you has made during your time at the school. You will no doubt be feeling mixed emotions as you look forward to what the future might hold, while at the same time realizing that some of the best years of your life are coming to an end. As you make your way out into the world, you will all follow different paths. Some will travel, some will study, some will start working straight away. Some will get married, some won't. Some will move into a new home for the first time. Others will stay with their parents for as long as they can bear to keep them. But one thing that each one of you will have in common is that you will all become old boys. The brotherhood that you have developed during your time at Pretoria Boys High School is something that few people can explain, and is something that lives on long after you leave the school. Something very few other schools can claim. You will no doubt soon realize the value of this incredible network of old boys as you move into the working world or travel abroad. There are old boys everywhere. I've already had the privilege of addressing you this year about the Old Boys Association, the formal body of Old Boys which provides support to its life members and to the school. I encourage each and every one of you to join the association if you have not already done so. The association is a network which represents over 7,000 life members one of the largest associations of its kind in the country, and I suspect the world. Tonight, on behalf of the network of Old Boys across the globe, it is my pleasure to present the Old Boys Association Prize, a prize awarded to that pupil of the school considered by the Old Boys to have shown the most outstanding qualities of application and endeavor, sportsmanship and manliness, loyalty and integrity, example and leadership. This year, the prize is awarded to Stefan Krichel.
It gives me great pleasure this evening to introduce to you our guest speaker for the 2020 Valediction ceremony. The guest speaker this evening is Advocate Billy Downer. For those of you who have been following the news, and in particular a high-profile case that is currently taking place in the Pietermaritzburg High Court, the name Billy Downer will be one that is familiar to you. Billy Downer is a born and bred Pretoria boy, having attended Brooklyn Primary School and then Pretoria Boys High. Advocate Downer attended Boys High from 1970 to 1974. Some of his accomplishments during his time at the school include being appointed as Deputy Head Prefect, Swimming Captain, Chairman of the History and Debating Societies, a Gilbert and Sullivan veteran where he performed as Cousin Hebe in HMS Pinafore, a policeman in the Pirates of Penzance, and Lieutenant of the Tower in Yeoman of the Guard. After school, Advocate Downer studied for his BA LLB at Stellenbosch University, where he completed the course cum laude. Subsequent to his undergraduate qualification, he was selected as a Rhodes Scholar, upon which he studied at Brasenose College, Oxford University, from 1980 to 1982, where he completed his BCL. Advocate Downer is currently employed as a prosecutor by the Department of Justice and National Prosecuting Authority of South Africa, an organization he has been involved with for the past 38 years. During his time working for the National Prosecuting Authority, Advocate Downer has prosecuted many high-profile commercial cases, both in the lower and the high courts. Two more prominent examples include the State versus Shabir Sheikh in the Durban High Court, and currently, as I alluded to earlier, the State versus former President Jacob Zuma and Tails in the Pietermaritzburg High Court. Other areas where Advocate Downer has played a significant role, but are not limited to, include the following. The successful appeal for the State in the Supreme Court of Appeal against the sentence in the State versus J. Arthur Brown and Fidentia, a case many of you would be familiar with. Advocate Downer conducted the first asset forfeiture cases for the National Prosecuting Authority prior to and during the infancy of the Asset Forfeiture Unit. He established and managed the Directorate of Public Prosecution's Plea Bargaining Project and established and managed the Directorate for Public Prosecution's Anti-Corruption Project. He is a past chairperson of the Society of State Advocates of South Africa. He is a member and senator of the International Association of Prosecutors. He is a member of the Corruption Hunters Network, a legal organization which is based in Norway, and a member of the Institute of Commercial Forensic Practitioners. Currently, Advocate Downer is coordinator of the commercial crime portfolio of the National Prosecuting Authority in Cape Town, with special responsibility on corruption. I imagine he is quite busy at the moment. He is a member of Senior Council. Mr. Downer, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you back to your alma mater. I have no doubt that you have many interesting stories to tell and wisdom to share. It is wonderful to have you here, and we look forward to your address.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Headmaster, Mr. Gregory Hassenkamp, and Mrs. Amanda Hassenkamp, for the governing body, Mr. Brandon Topham, for the Elbows Association, Mr. Jason Weber, teachers and other members of staff, parents, friends of the school, ladies and gentlemen, and all of those of you who are listening to this remotely. And last but not least, of course, the stars of tonight's show, the Matrics of 2020. You've given me the graveyard shift. This comes at the end of brilliant speeches, many, many awards for brilliant academic and other achievements. So all I can say is I shall be short. Don't put too much on that, because it has been known that in court, when I say to a judge, my lord, I shall be short, it has often been remarked, Mr. Down, you always say you're going to be short, and you're not. So let me try. But I'm honored and delighted to return to my beloved old school at your invitation to talk to you. The Matric Valediction service is a very special occasion in the best traditions of Boys High. Today's proceedings have been no exception. Congratulations to you all, the musicians, the choir, the readers, the speakers and prize winners. You allowed us visitors to appreciate it firsthand and celebrate with you your excellence, your artistry, and your achievements, despite the challenges that you have had to face in this past uniquely difficult COVID-19 year, as we have heard from speaker after speaker. Let me remind you what your former headmaster, Tony Reeler, told you in his remote farewell address to you earlier this year. He said that COVID-19 had shattered most of your dreams and aspirations for your matric year. He congratulated you for your courage, resilience, and perseverance. Judging by what I've heard today, and others have said the same things, these several months later, still under COVID, your courage, your resilience, your perseverance have remained. As Tony said, you will always carry the accolade of being the generation that dealt with COVID in its matric year. Well done. Your trials and tribulations will continue. COVID will be with us for a long time. We face a life different from what we knew before. As if COVID itself is not bad enough, the effects of the virus have been and will remain devastating. We face an economy that has shrunk at unprecedented rates to rarely seen lows. Unemployment is at record levels. Much in politics seems divisive, combative, and fragile. Crime runs rampant. Each one of us is touched more and more often by violence, including gender-based violence and corruption. Let me talk a little about corruption. Some of it, shockingly, has been corruption born out of the fight against the pandemic. Constitutional law Professor Pierre de Vos described recently in the Daily Maverick the challenges the police, prosecutors, and the courts face at present in trying to bring the allegedly corrupt to book. He says, as soon as credible evidence emerges that politicians and politically connected individuals might be caught up in corruption, it is as if they have a script that they all follow. He provides some of the highlights, or should I say lowlights, of the script. They are devastating, depressing, exhausting, and all too familiar, including doing everything to avoid a proper investigation and ultimate trial on the merits of the allegations. It begins with claiming that the alleged wrongdoer has been the victim of egregious but often invented procedural breaches of their rights, followed by the claim that allegations of wrongdoing originate from political opponents or other, always unnamed, dark forces aiming to tarnish their good name. When the alleged perpetrator is not immediately charged because of complex and time-consuming investigations, it must be claimed that credible evidence of wrongdoing does not in fact exist at all, and that we all have a duty to pretend accordingly. When charges are eventually brought, the accused and their factional defenders must start to rail against various real and imagined abuses by the prosecution and launch, usually futile, court action to try to stop the prosecution in its tracks. In the more unlikely event of the accused actually being convicted of the crime they were charged with, all the defenses deployed earlier will become unavailable. This is usually when the attacks on the presiding officer and the legal system commence. I've been on the receiving end of some of this. So, these are the social, economic, professional, political, and legal challenges that you will have to face as you emerge from your COVID matric year. There's an exclamation mark there. It all looks a bit bleak, doesn't it? What hope is there for you? First, as we've heard earlier this evening on a number of occasions, things could be worse. As we processed into this magnificent hall, we passed under the memorial to those of this school who gave their lives in the Great War of 1914 to 1918. Then we passed by the Roll of Honor, listing the names of old boys who died in the Second World War. I nodded sadly, but fondly as I always do, to the name there of the uncle I never knew, John Delaharpe Lane, my mother's youngest brother. He had not yet turned 21 when his Spitfire, Megan, he called it Megan after a girlfriend, was shot down over the Egyptian desert just before the Battle of El Alamein in October 1942. He was barely older than you are. He was a matric here in 1939. Such was the sacrifice that he, all the other old boys who died in those wars and their families made. Their future looked bleak in 1942. We've heard earlier it looked bleak also in 1945. For those who died, they simply lost their future forever. My grandmother, his mother, had to endure the Boer War of 1899 to 1902, during which the British forces laid waste to the family farm, and her family were forced to flee to exile in Lesotho. Others of my family, like yours, had to endure the Great War, followed by the Great Depression of the 1930s, only to be dumped in the horrors and uncertainties of the Second World War. Then came the ravages of apartheid. Things looked bleak for your parents and older family members who suffered its horrors. The problems that you face now as you take on the world seem fairly mild by comparison, don't they? This is some consolation. Second, you born frees must not forget the enormous benefits you enjoy in living in an open constitutional democracy with all its personal liberties guaranteed in the Bill of Rights, an independent press, and an effective independent judiciary, despite the other bleak things that challenge us. Third, things improve eventually. Peace follows wars. Prosperity follows depression. Our constitutional democracy followed apartheid. Legal victories eventually follow frustrating avoidance of accountability. Just the week before last, and after first drafting this address, I read that the police had arrested a number of those accused of large-scale corruption in the public sector. I'm sure we all feel less concerned about the apparent lack of progress in dealing with grand corruption, and this has continued in the very recent weeks since then. Let's see when and if Professor De Vos's script starts running. I've read at least an excerpt of an indication that his script is starting to run, and run by some of those people that have been arrested. But, as Martin Luther King reminded us, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That is very encouraging. Fourth, and most important, things get better because good people with courage, resilience, and perseverance make them better. This school has given you skills to face and overcome adversity for yourselves, to help others to do so, and to improve the lot of society. PBHS has done this constantly since its founding, through all the various turbulent times it has had to weather. Apart from the excellent academic education you've received, the Boys High ethos traditionally seeks to foster boys who are true to their essential human selves. This remains with them forever. Beloved former Deputy Headmaster Bob Fair said so, Tony Reeler said so, Greg Hassenkamp has said so again tonight. The speech from the earlier speeches have also said so, and I do so again. You will realize this as you go away from the school. Adversity and hopelessness are small fry against boys like you. To top it all, Tony said that he had seen a change in the hearts and minds of Boys High boys during his tenure. He modestly did not emphasize that he had a large part in this. The expanded Boys High ethos of essential humanness can now embrace diversity of race, gender, sexual orientation, and religion. This expanded notion of respect embraces now respect by the older for the younger, mentorship, and the strong looking after the weak. My goodness, you are lucky. Our class of 74 had its 40 years on reunion 6 years ago. As we sang 40 years on and struggled to keep our emotions in check, we wondered what we were like in our work and our play those 40 years ago. As the school song puts it, more or less, then it came o'er us. Glimpses of notes like the catch of a song, visions of boyhood floated before us, echoes of dreamland bore us along. Among the glimpses, visions, and echoes that come to me are these three. Maths master Mr. Ted Jones warning us not to wallow in comfort zones, but always to seek new challenges and be uncomfortable, to give back to our country and school when we had succeeded on the foundations the school gave us. Even to return as teachers to perpetuate the Boys High ethos. Ted, my goodness, Ted would have been proud that Mr. Hassenkamp returned and took up the headmastership this year. Secondly, legendary Latin teacher Mrs. Louis Erasmus admonishing us not to fall into the decay of the Roman Empire that had caused its own destruction despite its material achievements as it bestrode the world. Next, brilliant history teacher Mrs. Naomi von Etten insisting on link sentences in narrative answers, keeping answers relevant and focused. It stayed with me for the rest of my life, and it keeps coming back in these echoes of dreamland that float them before us. When Judge Hilary Squires sentenced Shabir Sheikh for corruption in the case I prosecuted many years ago, he said that he was obliged to impose the prescribed period of imprisonment and nothing less. He said, "That is not something one can take any satisfaction in doing to someone who otherwise showed commendable vision, ambition, and energy. But somewhere and somehow, on his journey to achieve his ambition, the accused seems to have lost his moral compass and the scruples that should be upholding the values of the Constitution that his participation in the struggle helped to achieve." Now the point is that possessing commendable technical qualities without a moral compass count as nothing. As far as ethos goes, Judge Squires could have been an old boy. Mr. Sheikh, probably not. I have found that the decisions about what to do when challenges arise are quite easy. I ascribe this to the Boys High ethos that I was so fortunate to have been taught. Doing the right thing is usually obvious. So, gentlemen of the class of 2020, you will go out into the world, be excellent, be your essential human selves, be uncomfortable, seek challenges, give back to your country and our beloved school. Do not fall into moral decay. Keep your moral compass. You will know to do the right thing in these bleak times and when you help to make them better. I thank you.
Headmaster, I never know what I'm going to say, and fortunately, as soon as Advocate Downer got up to speak, it came to me. So as you were speaking, I was reminded of Robert Frost and his poem, "Two roads diverge in the yellow wood, and I took the path less trodden." And I can assure all the persons in this room, students and adults, have known a little bit about the industry in which you operate, that there are not many Rhodes Scholar students who go on to prosecute in the South African Prosecution Service. You know, if you had chosen a career in private practice, I can assure you that you would have made a lot more money. But it's clear that you took a path that was less traveled on for other reasons. And when I was looking at the students earlier tonight, I thought of a quote of Churchill, and thanks to you mentioned the date, 1942, it was just after the battle when the British forces vanquished Rommel in Egypt, North Africa there. Churchill said, "This is not the end." And this is for all the students in the room. This is not the end. And he said, it is not even the beginning of the end, but perhaps it is the end of the beginning. And I think, Advocate Downer, you will agree with me when I, on behalf of the school's governing body, want to wish all the matriculants of this year all the best going ahead. But I won't wish them luck, because I think one thing they may have learnt at Boys High is that success in life is not dependent on luck. It's dependent on perseverance, diligence, and hard work. And you may think that this is the end, but it's really only the beginning of a lot of life choices which you all need to make. And I hope you take inspiration from our guest speaker this evening, who has chosen a career which this country desperately needs, and which I hope all of you will choose careers that can allow you one day to all come back to this hall and stand on this stage. And you can be proud of the legacy which you leave, just as I believe you, Advocate Downer, can be proud of the legacy which you are busy leaving. And not only will you be proud of yourself, but your school and all your fellow old boys can be proud of you, as we are of our guest speaker tonight. I, unfortunately, am not an old boy, because I made a very important life decision when I was 12 years old. My parents gave me the choice of a few schools in Pretoria, and my exact words were, with reference to Boys High, "Are you out of your mind? There are no girls in Boys High." So that life choice has made many different choices for me over the year, had very many effects for me over the year, but at least you had made the right choice in your career. And I thank you tonight on behalf of all present, not only for the time which you have taken tonight, but the legacy which you are leaving and which you are continuing to leave, and which hopefully will serve as an inspiration for all the matriculants of 2020. So on behalf of the school, I'd like to present you with a small gift. And thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please can I ask you to stand for the singing of 40 Years On, after which the staff will exit the hall with the academic procession.